Welcome back to What Brought You Here Today. On today's episode, I sit down with Amanda, a psychotherapist and social worker based in Chicago. Amanda and I talked about our experiences as highly sensitive people, being your own advocate, and her work with couples, teens, and other populations. This was such a fun conversation and one that will resonate with many of you. I hope you all enjoy it, so let's settle in and dive into what brought you here today. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to What Brought You Here Today. I'm Ryan, the host, and I am joined today with Amanda. She is based out of Chicago. She can go ahead and introduce herself in a second here. But first of all, I just want to thank you for taking time out of your day, Amanda, to join me. This is really exciting.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. It's so fun to sit with another therapist and just chat shit. So I'm
Yeah.
very looking forward to this. But
Hey,
yeah, I am Amanda Pearson. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, licensed in Illinois, and I recently got that full licensure, which is very exciting. I'm a psychotherapist, so I work with individuals and I also work with couples. I am very generalist in my approach. So I like to work with a little bit of everyone, get a little bit of a sprinkle of a couple here and there, men, women, teens. I like the whole gambit. But yeah, based in Chicago, currently in a position where I'm moving practices, which is very exciting. But beyond the therapy space, I love exploring Chicago. I love restaurants, nature, going on lots of walks, exercise classes, and all things wellness. So excited to be here.
that's amazing. I also love nature and all things wellness. So I feel like we're going to have a very interesting conversation about all of this. And just a little backstory, Amanda and I met through the Your Human Therapist book club,
Mhm.
which again, if you've listened to the last few episodes, that all of the guests have been from there. I think we've all would agree that we've been very fortunate to stumble upon Andrea and Cassandra and kind of this network and community that they've built and really been able to form friendships and connections and come together in ways that we maybe wouldn't have been able to just being in kind of like our little pockets of mental health in the states that we're in.
Completely agree. I've been blown away by the sense of community.
Yeah.
And like, I would have never thought I'd be collaborating with therapists from you in Minnesota, but all the way up to like Canada, New York. It's very
Yeah.
cool to kind of hear how we all practice and how it's all very similar at the end of the day, too, and how we can bond off of that.
Yeah, I love that. So let's just jump in. Why and how did you become a therapist? How did you land here?
Yeah. So I've always kind of had, the heart for, therapeutic work, for social work. I'm a therapist at the core. And even when I look back to like my childhood, I was, in the sports I would do, I would join, the teams that would support individuals with disabilities and mental illness. And I started working very early as fourth grade, kind of in that realm. Then as soon as I could, I took a class on babysitting at like a local junior college, and I was putting like waivers in the mailboxes of my neighbors, like a seventh grader, like holding like a newborn baby. So always loved kids, always loved working with individuals with disabilities. And then really hunkered down on that in high school and college. I was studying psychology. Then I learned kind of the world of social work, which was really an eye opener for me and it just made sense. So I got my bachelor's in social work. And that was actually around the time that COVID hit. My senior year of college was that March 2020
Okay.
time where everything kind of went down. Our classes went remote, our graduation barely existed. And that's when I decided I was going to pursue my master's right away. So I got my master's in social work from my childhood bedroom in my parents' house virtually for 10 months, was cruising along. And I come from a family of educators. So my whole family's in high schools, junior highs, leadership in schools, things like that. So I always felt like that was kind of just the pipeline of our family. I'm like fourth generation educator. So I started out in school social work, which I really loved and was passionate about. But I was lucky enough to come across a supervisor in that time who was my LCSW supervisor who had a practice on the side and invited me to come on in and work with some individuals. And it all just made sense. And it all kind of came to fruition. I'm like, I never really gave myself permission to move to the side of therapy. But as soon as I was doing it, I realized how in love with it I was. So I decided to make the full-time jump and I haven't looked back since. So yeah, very, very exciting. It felt like it was just kind of like a natural calling. But beyond that, I really have always just been like an empathetic, compassionate, highly sensitive person. I remember even like when I was really young, I was very vulnerable to my own emotions, other people's emotions. I felt like I took them on. And I've heard you talk a little bit about being an HSP as well. So I wonder if you have any thoughts on that and how that contributes to your work as well.
Oh, yeah. I think it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Like, it's very fulfilling, it's very exhausting, and I think that I've learned a lot of ways to compartmentalize, but also shed the
Yes.
stuff that I can't hold on to. And I know, like, you guys have heard me talk about, like, the whale sounds and this and somatic practices and shaking, and that's really been important for me to be able to continue to do this work in an effective way because we sit with people for a lot of hours at a time, right? Like, we are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 clients a day, however many it may be. Some maybe less acute trauma than others, some maybe less willing to share than others, but it almost feels sometimes like a magnet, like they're just like pulled and absorbed to like help the person feel better.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know maybe if that's like a good explanation of it if, you haven't been around highly sensitive people or like really empathic people who just kind of absorb it. It's just like it doesn't feel like I have a lot of control over it when it like right? And then all of a sudden I'm like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
I'm overwhelmed." Like
Yeah.
overstimulated. Too much has come on, I gotta get it off. Yeah.
I really like that you use the word shed because that's been like my biggest lesson since becoming a therapist is really needing to know my boundaries with myself
Mm,
and being an HSP. Like in public, I feel like when you're out and about, you can feel the energy of a room. You can feel like a vibe shift, right? And I was so always in the habit of being that helper in my social groups and my family, things like that. And you really have to learn kind of like what's your circus, what's your monkeys, and really that my clients are my circus and my monkeys. But
yeah.
you're holding that space for 20 something individual lives each week. It can be really heavy, and each week really varies based on also how we're doing and what's going on in our lives, right?
Mhm.
It's our first time being human alongside our clients. It's a journey, but a beautiful one.
Yeah, and I think we've really started to embrace the concept that we can also be human. Like we're not robots. Yes, we're like clinically trained, we're professionally trained, we are educated, we're knowledgeable, but we're still people at the core.
Yes.
And that doesn't like have to take away or like mean that I need to respond or react a certain way. And I think that's been a huge thing for me to understand in my own practice too of like, oh, like I can cry alongside my client. I can give you a hug. I can be there to support you if that's what you need and are requesting.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, I probably cry once a week in a session. Like, I just, and it's so like part of it's related to, I think, like, I see some adults who just have really acute trauma from their early
Yeah.
childhood, and it's heartbreaking. And I also have kids I work with who I'm like, just like tears of joy because they're
Yes.
making so much progress and their parents are seeing so much change and parents are changing. I'm like, this is beautiful. And this is why I do this work.
I completely feel that. I feel like most of my tears come and I'll voice like, I am tearing up hearing you talk about this beautiful moment with your partner. Or when I hear progress in couples or individual therapy, it is the most meaningful thing to me. And I will well up as I'm like clapping alongside my clients.
Mhm.
Absolutely. But yeah, there's so much to say for being human in that room and allowing for that relationship to take place. I don't think that I could be a successful therapist being like that clean slate, like a very relational in my approach. I know what's going on in my clients' lives. I'll give little blips of self
Yeah.
disclosure so they feel like they know the person sitting across from them, right? Especially when you're living in the same city, like to bond off of like an event that someone went to or a concert they saw or a restaurant they love, like, hyping that up and bonding over frivolous things can be the very rapport that we need to connect and for that client to feel safe in that room.
I completely agree. I distinctly remember so we have the Minnesota State Fair.
Mhm.
Huge deal, right? 2
Huge.
weeks at the end of summer.
Yeah.
This is what we all look forward to. Maybe not all of us. I love it. I will admit it. I love the State Fair. But I have a client who went and was sharing their experience with me, and I was like, "Please tell me more. Tell me
Yeah.
all about the new food. Tell me all about the new beer. I need to know everything."
Yeah. A fried what?
It's like, "Yeah, what was good? What wasn't? How busy was it?" And we just had, like, this 15-minute conversation about it, and then we went into the session. But I think you're right that it doesn't ha there's this very fine line between the professional relationship, but sprinkling in components of humanness and friendliness and caring and genuine interest
Yeah.
in the other person and their life
Oh,
outside
yeah.
of the therapy room.
Yeah. I know for me, like, being on the other side of the couch as a patient to my own therapist, hearing her say, like, "How is that really hard thing? I was thinking about you all week," is so very special to me. Like,
Mhm.
hearing that your therapist cares and we are thinking about our clients outside the session. So to be able to, like, hold witness to the big moments in their lives and catch up with them, I think is so very special. And I'll even be one to, like, I use Google Voice to kinda, like, schedule and things like that. But sometimes I'll be like, "Good luck today, you got this," or, like, "Thinking of you
Yeah.
today." And I think that there's such a special nature of that, like, you're not alone in this, and I am a part of your community, right? And it's patient by patient, right? Depending on their comfortability with things like that and an open dialogue about how we feel about different forms of communication. But I think it's a really special thing to hold in the therapeutic relationship, it being beyond just therapist to client.
Yeah, I love that. What how would you describe your approach?
Yeah. I would say I am very eclectic in my approach, generalist, if you will. So I root myself in a lot of CBT and psychodynamic work and lots of DBT skills, somatic skills. That's kind of somewhere that I'm growing is the somatic area. But I like to be very skills based, especially from the jump, right? If we can't kind of like cope with a panic attack, I don't think we're going to be able to dig deep into our childhood. So I kind of like to pull in different modalities for different folks and different life experiences. And I think this is a really special way to practice because, I could be working with someone for a year and a half, a different life circumstance comes, and we could bring in a different modality that can really treat that current life issue that we haven't been using all along. So, yeah, that's very special to me. And in couples, I love to use things like Gottman, emotionally focused therapy, as well as psychodynamic in the therapy room to understand kind of how our family of origin impacts the relationship and attachment. So, yeah, a little bit of everything.
What has your work with couples been like? I do not work with couples. I will never for various reasons.
I'd love to hear them.
But I mean, it's very clear cut, and I think I've voiced this before, and I'm I'm very vocal about it. I am previously divorced. My husband now, who we've been married for a while now, but he's also previously divorced, and I truly believe that therapy can be helpful
Mm.
if two people are willing to put in the work, do the work, and maintain the work.
Yeah,
I also truly believe that if you are unhappy, that that's okay and you don't have to stay married.
absolutely. And I think that there's so much power in that in the therapy room, right?
Yeah.
Like that couple's therapist is never making a decision for you. And self determination continues to exist in the couple's therapy room. But we're really deciding, can we reach these goals and deeply understand each other to be happy and healthy in this partnership? Do we have this buy in? Is this working? Otherwise, we can decide, how can we healthily live our lives without each other? How can we do this
Yeah.
split in the healthiest and calmest way possible? And um, I've been holding that space for both realities, right? People who have come to couples therapy and left in a much healthier and happier place where they can flourish, and couples that have decided that this isn't the best fit and they need to move forward. And I'll still get emails from couples I've worked with in the past saying, like, thank you so much. Like, that was really my freedom. And I think that's a perspective of couples that a lot of people won't talk about. Like, we assume that it's only happy endings, but
Mhm.
it's not. Like, that's the reality of being in couples is we're learning, like, how are we functioning as individuals in this system? And is this working for us? Right. Or
Yeah.
is there a better reality for us out there? And I think it can be really beautiful to give yourself permission to exit something that's not working as well. And to be honest with ourselves.
Well, maybe you just changed my whole mind. I think I'm like 80-20. If you're unhappy, it's okay to leave. And I just have learned that, like, through my own experiences, through our life experiences, like, through the world experience, that our life is short. We get one life. If you're unhappy, it's okay to leave.
Yeah, and I think
It's
that's
like,
such an interesting thing to note too, because you'll see in like a couple's context how different values, lived experiences, religion, family of origin context really impacts that decision making. Right. It doesn't always feel like we are able to do that. And maybe that's why that permission can't be granted. Right. So it's a lot of learning to individuals in one space, but also treating them as one system. I'll say, like, insurance does not reimburse couples in the same way, which is one thing to add to the giant list of effed up insurance things.
yeah.
However, couples is hard, hard work, but such meaningful work at the same time. And now that I've started, I can't imagine not having it in my practice because I find it very special. Especially like I work with lots of different couples, but I think there's something so beautiful about the yin and yang of the masculine and feminine. And I really love working with men's mental health and, of course, love working with women. So to see how men's mental health can impact a woman's life. And it's like a snowball effect of, societal impact and how a couple working on their dynamic can be a snowball effect of improving their family dynamic, the relationships with their children. It's really a special, special space to bear witness to in that way.
Do you foresee your practice in the future, like, niching down?
So that's like the best question ever. I've had such mixed thoughts on this because we're very much, I feel like, told as therapists, especially on social media and in terms of marketing, that it's so important to have your niche. Like, I work with business women on achieving what they want to achieve, right? Like, we'll really see like those headliners of like so specifically what you work with. And I've been in psychotherapy for 2 years. Like I said, I got my master's, I think 3 years ago. I'm still very fresh. I have so much to learn. So I could see myself niching down in the future. But right now, I really can't imagine not having like a spunky resistant teen in my week, not having a couple couples, not having men's mental health where you're kind of like breaking down that puzzle. And of course, working with women. Like, I just, I can't give up one of those populations right now. And I'm in this balance of like, do I need to commit to a niche or can I allow myself to be generalist and feel this out and really understand how therapy works in these different populations and see where it goes? So I don't really have an answer to your question because I'm just as stuck on this, but I feel, do you notice that in like social media and the
Oh,
therapist
yeah,
world, there's this big push to really, really niche?
100%. And I think that's great
Yeah.
for the people who can do that and make a living off of that.
Yes.
But I think part of therapy is outside of the niche. Right? We truly can't heal from the one issue without healing the system or the family of origin
Oh,
or
yeah.
whatever is happening that's impacting that issue. So I think it maybe makes sense from an advertising standpoint or a
Yeah.
marketing standpoint or a social selling standpoint of, this is what I know I'm really good at and I can help you with this. But I do sometimes question on the back end of like, but what happens next?
Mhm.
Then do they have to go find someone else because that doesn't feel therapeutic?
Yeah.
Or do you continue to treat everything even though it's not your niche, which also isn't therapeutic and maybe not within your scope of practice if that's what you're advertising? So I don't know. Social media has been such a weird space to show up to and to watch explode, especially for the like mental health professions and social work and therapists and coaching and I don't know, it seems to be working for a lot of people, but it also feels very maybe murky still.
Yeah, and I think it is. I mean, even when we think about the world of therapy, we have LMFTs, we have counselors, we have psychologists, we have social workers, we have like mental health counselors. Like it also depends on the state. Like it is murky, and it's
Mhm.
murky county by county, state by state, country by country, right? It's murky social media versus what our textbooks tell us in grad school. It's very confusing, but I also think we can look at it that way, but we could also look at it as empowering. I really, really hate this quote. I have to say, but there's many ways in a cat. I really hate that. I need a different one. I need a different quote for that. Do you have one? But like we can all choose how we want to interact with this. And I think it's
Mhm.
really good to know ourselves and our boundaries and our limitations in our work. But it's also can be really healthy and empowering to challenge ourselves to open a door to something new, open a door to being able to treat a new diagnosis, opening the door to treat, families or couples or, you know, new things that we're seeing in our country, like migrants, right? I think there's like a duty as a social worker to, you know, give back to different lived experiences. And sometimes niching down doesn't feel connective to me because it feels like I'm stepping away from my social work roots in a way.
Yeah,
That's where I'm
I
at now.
understand that.
Let's see where that evolves.
I understand that. What is a what is the most rewarding part about working with teenagers for you? I love teenagers.
I love teens. They're, I think, the most important to people.
Okay, what has been the most rewarding part for you of working with teenagers?
Yes. Teens, I think, is really like build a relationship or it's not going to work. I remember being a
Mhm.
teen, put in therapy for one session. And I was like, there's no way. Right. And I think that's important to remember is sometimes a teen's going to therapy because genuinely they want to. But a lot of times it's the parent encouraging them to. There's a disconnection there and they need some support with something. So having an adult in the room that you can feel safe with and build a relationship comes first. But I think the most rewarding part of working with teens is seeing them better understand the world around them in a lot of ways and understand their individuality in it. Teens are so deeply wired to be socially responsive, right? To those social rewards, right? And for them to realize like, I don't really care what this person thinks, or I actually don't think this girlfriend or boyfriend or significant other is good for my mental health, or I think what that teacher said was really inappropriate. To be able to like step back and hear them critically think and understand their worth and seeing their self-esteem grow and seeing them become adults is like I have chills even talking about it. It's the most beautiful thing I can see because I wish I had therapy as a teen. Like
Yeah.
being a teenager is the hardest time in your life. It's so confusing. You think you know it all, but you don't at all. The world's a scary place, but you don't really realize that yet. So I find work with teens invaluable, and I really can't imagine not having it. And, you know, I hope my teens, when I'm a mom, are in therapy and find that beautiful space early on as well to connect and feel safe and talk about all the hard parts about being a teenager.
I love that. I feel so much like push and pull from the teens that I
Oh
work
yeah.
with, just like the turmoil and the maybe the pressure and the stress that they're under that I don't even think that they're maybe aware of,
Yeah.
right? The social media, safety in schools, all of these things, friendships, the friendships, the bullying. It's like,
That's
guys,
also the fact that like they go to school 40 hours a week. A lot
yeah,
of them part-time jobs and are in sports. They're putting in like 80, 90-hour weeks that I as an adult know I'm not doing. And we're
right.
not regularly checking in on their mental health and burnout levels. That's wild.
Yeah, it kind of blows my mind. And I I didn't have the best high school experience. Then it was different. And I'm 38. Like I'm obviously well removed from high school at this point, but I just don't recall it being as like nasty. Like like mean girls, mean bullying.
Yeah.
all around all the time. And now you can find everything on social media and the cyberbullying, and my heart just breaks for them.
Yeah. I feel like I was in this weird cusp age-wise. I'm like the last or the very first year of Gen Z technically, which is wild. But I remember when I was in like junior high, high school is when Instagram came out. It was
Mhm.
when like there was all the anonymous posting sites like Ask FM, I remember, or even an anonymous page, and people are just horrible. They like just verbally destroy
Yeah.
you. And that's gone nowhere. Like all of these apps and like concepts continue to exist, like teens pulling down teens, right? And I think it's because it's it's fascinating that a lot of these concepts haven't really
Yes.
gone anywhere. The interaction with social media is only growing. There's still all these anonymous sites. There's still this, and I really think it comes down to this concept of like, it's a contentious time. You're figuring out who you are. Do I even like
Mhm.
myself one week from the other? I love myself and I hate myself. I hate my parents. I love my parents. It's a very confusing time. Right?
Yeah.
And then it's also like you're so aware for the first time of other teens' lives and that comparison trap and other bodies, your body evolving, right? Where I think like that quote, hurt people is so real when you're a teen because social lives matter so much. So, it's a really easy place in social media to hide and pull people down. And it's sad, but I think that since I've been in school, I've seen schools do a really, really good job on starting to give deeper education on social media and cyberbullying and protecting ourselves in that space, which is so deeply needed, but also needed on the parent end to really understand how our kids are interacting with social media. And when they're up in their bedroom having their like hour of like scroll time, like, are you okay up
Right.
there? Because they could really be suffering and we don't really know. So I think having also that dialogue as therapist, but also as a parent with your teen is vital for their well-being.
Yeah. I agree. I think parents maybe underestimate the role that they play.
And I think there's topics that maybe a lot of parents aren't healed in.
Mhm.
They don't know how to talk about. They're scared to go there, so they just don't. They think the schools will handle it or someone else will handle it, but
Yeah.
that becomes a topic that your teen's lost in and alone in a lot of the times.
Shifting gear to parents, what's been your most fulfilling part of working with women?
With women, I've really, really adored working with women succeeding, women succeeding and deciding this isn't everything for me and I can choose to take it slow and I can choose me. That's a beautiful thing to bear witness to. But also seeing pregnant moms, brand new moms, moms recovering from postpartum, right? Like that is such a journey that, is new to me and, as a therapist, but also as a growing woman and understanding that's my future, it's become so beautiful to be holding hands with someone as they're kind of working through that time in their life. And I think women are so multifaceted. We go through so much. Our lives look different one week from the next. We live in like a 4-week cycle. So being able to really understand women holistically
Mhm.
and having no off limit topics is amazing. Like I truly believe like when I have days where I only have women on my caseload, it's a breeze. Like we're connecting, we're talking about all the areas of your life. Like we're leaving both feeling refreshed. Like it's amazing work and women are amazing. So there's no woman I don't love working with, but bearing witness to healthy change that's helping them understand themselves in a better way is, I think, the best part.
I love that. I feel very fortunate to have found a good postpartum therapist. I had my daughter in the height of the pandemic in August 2020, and it was,
Whoa.
yeah, whoa is an understatement.
Yeah.
But I'm very fortunate for people who really embrace that work and taking on kind of the trauma and the stressors that come with becoming a new mom.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. So thank you for doing that for other moms.
Of course. I can't wait to be a mom. So I'm happy to learn from other moms that I have the pleasure and the luck to work with.
Being a mom is a wild ride.
I imagine.
It is
I'm
it is
sure I have
beautiful. It is
Beautiful, crazy.
Beautiful chaos
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
What would you like the public to know about mental health?
I would like the public to know that social media should not be your main source of mental health information. Uh,
Louder.
yeah, I think that the media is now the public, right? Like the public is our voice. We're not really looking to famous celebs with like HR people and PR people, I guess more PR, to run the media. It's all of us, right? We all have a voice now. So I think our responsibility to critically think is more necessary than ever when it comes to a social media post, pop culture, generalizations about mental health or specific diagnoses, and just wellness topics in general. I think that we all live in our own mind and body, and we're the expert of that. And my mind and body is going to work differently than yours, than to the person to our left and our right. And knowing that mental health and wellness can be trial and error, right? And that we also have to be our own advocate. I've had to work with clients very deeply on this in terms of them working with med providers, doctors, even me as a therapist. I really encourage them to advocate with me and share with me when something's not feeling like it's working, right? When maybe something I said didn't land quite right, when they're not feeling heard by a provider of a sort, or they're not feeling like their doctor's taking something they find very seriously. And I'm finding this becoming more and more of a topic of like, you are allowed to advocate for yourself. You know your body, and like, how can we communicate these to the professionals assisting us? So, yeah, that's kind of like twofold. Critically thinking in terms of social media and just our world around us, being your own advocate. And I also think there's a lot of buzz about therapy. And like, there's some people that stand on the hill of every person should be in therapy, period. I don't always stand on that hill because I believe that if you want to be in therapy, you need to be prepared to do the work. It's not easy. Week in and week out, it could be the most hardest hour of your week. And it is only 1 hour of your 168-hour week. And us therapists don't have magic wands. You as the client, you're in the driver's seat and you need to know, again, going back to advocacy, what you want to work on. What is this roadmap? What is the way out? What are our goals? So before joining any type of therapy, I think we need to understand, what are we really looking to get out of this? Am I ready for this? Am I committed to taking this on and showing up week to week? Because it isn't just like an easy weekly check in. And I think that's a misconception out there that, you know, it's for everyone. No, you got to be ready to do the work. So that's,
Mhm.
yeah, my biggest thoughts on mental health at the moment.
Those are important thoughts
Thank
and good thoughts. And I think we don't talk about the pressure to be in therapy enough, that if you're not ready, it's not going to be successful or fulfilling in the way that you think it's going to be.
you. Mhm.
And
And
that's okay.
it's okay. And in the same vein, therapy, for me it is, but therapy doesn't need to be a lifelong endeavor, right? Like therapy can be brief. You can understand, okay, I've reached my goals and it's time to spread my wings now, right? I think as a therapist, I require that space to, like we said in the beginning, shed and to be my best self on the other end of the couch as a therapist. But, if you're, feeling well adjusted, you're meeting your goals, you're feeling healthy in your life, you're not required to stay chained to that resource. And I think it's just, again, your mind and body. It's very individualized how we interact with therapy, and knowing that your experience in therapy is going to be different than your mom's and your friends and your cousins.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna like get that. Can you put that on a sweatshirt? Can you put
Yeah, I
that on
like
a
that. You know your mind and body, and it's not your cousins.
sweatshirt? I will
Not your
buy that
mama.
sweatshirt. I will get
Kind
that.
of your mom's.
I will get that sweatshirt. If you could do anything in the world and nobody knew what you did, what would you do?
Oh my God. What a question. I think I'd just like, if I had a magic wand.
Yeah, if you had a magic wand, if you had a job, however you're interpreting the question.
Okay, there's not really limits on this. I
No.
think I'd just help our society have one big reset. Or this is gonna sound wild, where we kinda, like, just wipe away the corporations, and we wipe away our healthcare system and insurance and the complications of being an American and accessing everything to allow small business owners, medium business owners, the person who wants to start a business to be able to flourish financially and functionally in our society. I just like reset everything so we all have kind of a fair shot. I've witnessed throughout COVID so many small businesses, especially in Chicago, just completely get wiped out. Right. Like I have a family member who owned a teacher store that was flourishing for decades. And Amazon came in so hot that it's impossible to maintain, right? Like things like that, that like small, you know, restaurant with a different type of food, they're never going to last unless they get on like a Grubhub, right? Like I wish, there's so many convenience factors that make our lives a lot easier, but it makes it a lot less easy for like the little guys to win. And I didn't expect to go here with this answer, but I think we all just need a reset. And I don't know if it's ever going to be possible.
I would love that reset. Yeah, I don't know if it would be possible. I think there's gonna come a breaking point where the scale's gonna tip a little bit, and maybe that's not in our lifetime, but maybe that's okay, that there's just hope that it will tip to a better, healthier, more inclusive society,
Yeah.
and I think
And
a
I
more
kind of feel
calm
that.
society.
Yeah. And I kind of feel that in some ways. Like even being in book club and seeing how many individuals are starting their own individual practices, it's beautiful to see. And I think that on one hand, a lot of this has happened because of our evolution with technology. But again, I don't think starting businesses independently and having the tools to do so would really even be possible without technology. So it's
Mhm.
always like this two-sided argument of like the pros and the cons, which again we have to critically think about. But
Right.
yeah, I think we're starting to see that tip a little bit. And I love to support a small business or like a boutique, but I could also fall victim to Amazon hauls. So I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not in the clear
Perfect.
with this. I
You're not
know.
perfect. You're not a perfect human. We don't want perfect humans anyway.
They don't exist.
Where can people find you?
You can find me on social media at Resilient Social Work. I am licensed in Illinois, where you can find me on my social media to book with me at my new practice. You can find my merch, Be Gentle to Your Mental, in my link in bio or at Party Design/BG2M. Some really cute hoodies and tees and hats and things that are mental health focused. Yeah, so give me a follow on Instagram or TikTok or WordPress to see my blogs, and I'm excited if you decide to follow along.
Any final thoughts for the listeners?
You've got this. I'm rooting for you. Life's not always easy. I think that, like we talked about as women or teens or therapists, there's kind of a lot going against us. But we also have a lot of allies and resources on our side that, you know, we deserve to flourish. You deserve to take care of yourself. You deserve to slow down. And, there's no timeline. We can't do it all. So just be gentle to yourself. Be gentle to your mental. That's my takeaway.
That is. And that is on your clothing. That's on your merch.
There we go.
So, well, this has been such a lovely conversation. Again, thank you for taking time out of your day to chat with me.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. And what a journey we went on. Thanks for
Yes.
indulging me in my conspiracy theories.
Of course. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Amanda and I had such a great time talking about all things mental health related. If you are in Chicago and interested in scheduling with Amanda or following her on social media, you can find the links in the show notes. Thank you for your support and listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.